Hi, today we're going to deploy our same app to Google Kubernetes Engine instead of Google Cloud Run using GitHub Actions CI/CD pipeline. So first, let's create the Kubernetes cluster where our app is going to live. Go to the search bar, search for Kubernetes, go to clusters, click on create. I'm going to call my cluster, and it's going to live on US Central. Click on create. On the meanwhile, I'm going to duplicate this tab. We need to give permissions to our service account so that it can deploy to Google Kubernetes Engine instead of only Google Cloud Run. Go to service accounts, click on your service account, click on permissions, manage access, and we're gonna add another role, which is gonna be the Kubernetes admin. Make sure that in your project you have separated service accounts doing different things. Otherwise, you're gonna have one super powerful service account, and that's not ideal. Click on save. Now let's update our code. Go back to Visual Studio Code. First, in our backend, I'm gonna change the ports to 3000 on my file and on Docker file. I'm gonna create a folder called backend. And I'm gonna move all the files to this folder. Now I'm going to create my React frontend. npx create React app frontend. My React frontend is ready. I'm going to expand this folder, go to source, app.js, and that's going to be my simple frontend. I'm fetching two endpoints on my Node.js backend, updating those values using this hook, and displaying it to the screen. Very simple. Inside my frontend folder, I'm going to create a file called nginx.conf. I'm going to serve my React app through nginx. That's going to be my nginx file. It's going to serve my app on port 80, and this block basically does the nginx magic. It's gonna make it so fetches to /API/hello reach to app.get/hello on my backend without cores. Now I'm gonna update my deploy.yaml file to deploy this application to Google Kubernetes Engine. I'm gonna name it deploy to GKE, and it's gonna be triggered every time I push code to the main branch. On this block, I'm gonna specify some environment variables, such as the project ID, the cluster, the zone, repository name, the front-end image, everything I need. The job is gonna run on an Ubuntu latest machine, and I'm gonna give it read and write permissions. The first step is gonna be to check out the repository. Then I'm gonna set up the gcloud CLI. After that, I'm gonna authenticate to Google Cloud using our workload identity provider from before and our service account. Remember, you gotta give it permissions to deploy to Google Kubernetes Engine as well. Then I'm gonna configure Docker. Then I'm gonna build and push my front-end image. And I'm gonna do the same with the backend image. Then I'm gonna get my GKE credentials. And finally, I'm gonna deploy to GKE by running kubectl apply-f kubernetes. Before that, let's create the Docker file for our frontend. Go to your frontend folder and create a file called Docker file. This file is gonna build our app, and it's gonna serve it using nginx. I'm exposing port 80, just like it was written on the nginx.conf file. Also, let's create a docker ignore file. I'm going to ignore node modules build, .git, and .vs Code. Back to our deploy.yaml file, you can see this command. It is going to apply the manifests inside the Kubernetes folder. So let's create it. Create a folder, call it Kubernetes. Inside of it, create a file called frontend deployment.yaml. The API version is going to be version 1, and the name is going to be frontend deployment. I'm going to have one replica. I'm going to be using the image that we built using our Docker file and pushed to our repository, and I'm going to be listening on port 80. Now create a frontend service.yaml. The name and API version are the same as in the frontend deployment.yaml. The spec type is going to be load balancer because I want my frontend to have an external IP. I'm going to specify the protocol to be TCP, and the port and target ports are going to be the same. They're written in the other file and in the nginx.conf. Now I'm going to create a node deployment.yaml. The API version is going to be version 1, and the name is going to be node. That's important. There's going to be one replica, and I'm going to be using the image of our node backend that we built and pushed to our repository, being exposed on port 3000. Now I'm going to create the node service.yaml. The API version is going to be version 1, and the name is going to be node. The type of this service is going to be cluster IP. I don't want my node backend to be publicly available. I don't want it to have an external IP. You can see that the name node appear multiple times in our node service and node deployment.yaml. Our nginx.conf file is going to look for it to proxy requests to /API into our node app. So here in our Kubernetes folder, we have all the files that we're going to need to run this command. Let's push the code to GitHub, trigger the pipeline, and see how it goes. And our pipeline is running. The job is completed. I got a green check mark. That's good. Let me go to my Kubernetes cluster, and if I run on the terminal kubectl get services, I can see that I have my front-end service with an external IP, and that my node service doesn't have one. Just like we specified on our manifest files. Now, if I visit this IP, you can see that our app is live and running, and the backends are working. And that's it. That's how you can deploy your application to Google Kubernetes Engine as a distributed microservices app using GitHub Actions CI/CD pipeline.